Hello, I'm Dr. Manuel G. Saldivar. I'm a cognitive psychologist and a university faculty member. On this channel, I focus on ideas and concepts that will help you become more successful as a college student. Please join me for today's episode. Today's episode will discuss the topic of setting priorities and goals. And I want to begin by offering a definition or a way to think about what is a priority. Experts in this area, people who study how human beings make decisions, make judgments, will typically think about a priority as something that is both important to us as well as something that is urgent. And by urgent, I mean something that has a time frame or a time scale or a deadline, if you want to think of it that way, that requires some kind of attention. Maybe not right at this moment, but in the near future, sooner rather than later, we have to worry about something or accomplish something. That's an example of urgency. If you look at this table that is up on the screen, this is a basic matrix or chart that a lot of experts encourage people to use in order to help you think about setting priorities. So a priority is going to exist on the upper left-hand corner of the chart. So again, a priority is something that is both important and urgent. So an example might be a paper that's due tomorrow, or an application for an internship that has a certain deadline. That deadline could be, 3 days away, 3 weeks away. But 3 weeks can pass really quickly if you have a lot of stuff you need to do during that time. Again, to use this internship example, an internship application, you typically will have application forms to fill out, maybe a personal statement. You probably will need recommendation letters from other people. If you have to run around and depend on other people to do certain stuff for you, like write recommendation letters, 3 weeks, let's say, can pass very quickly. So that may still end up being urgent, even if it's not necessarily the deadline, the time frame is not necessarily short. So again, a priority is something that is both important to you, but also urgent. Now, you may have things that would land on the upper right-hand quadrant, things that are not urgent but are important. Maybe an exam you have in the near future. Maybe you want to get a flu shot before the end of the month and when flu season starts. So these are examples of things that are certainly important, but the urgency may not be quite as obvious or quite as salient as it would be in a priority. You may have things that are urgent, that have a short or a definite time scale or time frame, but are not really important. They're just kind of extras or things you like to do. You may see that you have a sale on Amazon.com on some stuff that you like to buy or want to buy. Maybe you have some laundry you have to do at some point in the near future. These things may have a time frame associated with them, a time scale, so that's where the urgency comes from, but they're not necessarily as important as other things you have to worry about. And then finally, of course, you may have things that you want to do that are neither urgent nor important. Checking your social media, watching a certain TV show, these things are part of life, can be sort of help make life a little easier, but sometimes you may have priorities. You may have things that are more important and more urgent that you really need to focus on, and the stuff that is not important or urgent or otherwise not a priority, you don't have to abandon it, but you kind of might need to put it on hold while you address the priorities, the things that are both urgent and important. Now, one challenge a lot of students have coming into college is fighting procrastination. Procrastination can be a big barrier to meeting our goals, to achieving our priorities. There are some things you can do to try and fight procrastination. Avoid distractions. This is a challenge for a lot of students in recent years with the proliferation of social media. It's so easy to communicate with others, even if that's just one-way communication, looking at someone's Instagram feed or looking at their TikTok videos. It's easy to spend time on things that are not priorities, that are neither important nor urgent, but still give us some pleasure, some joy. But you can, with effort, and it isn't necessarily easy, but you can develop the ability to push aside distractions, to be able to focus on things that are priorities. You can do this in part by helping yourself get organized. If you're going to work on an assignment or some project or just spend some amount of time in general studying, one thing you can do, for example, is get yourself organized. find a time and place, whether you're at home, at a library, somewhere else on campus. Gather all the materials that you need in front of you all at once, so you don't have to stop and go and dig through your backpack or look through a bookshelf or do whatever in order to find the materials you need, whether it's textbooks, readings, your laptop, whatever. Get everything organized in one place, in front of you, within easy reach. That's a way of helping you fight procrastination, because you don't have the excuse of having to stop and look for stuff in order to do whatever it is you're doing. You have it all easily available. And then finally, do things to make yourself accountable. Create a schedule or a timetable. Communicate with other people, maybe in your class if you join study groups, or have a group list. I know nowadays a lot of students like to have email chains, or more often, I guess, group texts, where they'll text each other questions, answers, discussion points about a particular class. There's not necessarily an expectation or requirement that you do these things, but sometimes by creating a schedule or a timetable for yourself, and or communicating with other people who are also involved, maybe in the same class or the same project, whatever it is, that need to communicate with others, that need to have some external thing like a schedule, like a checklist that you're trying to meet, that will help you make yourself accountable, and in turn that can help you fight procrastination. Sorry for the interruption, but if you're enjoying this video, please like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon for notifications. Now, in the second half of this episode, I want to talk about the concept of SMART goals. The SMART goal concept was developed in the business world probably starting about 35 or 40 years ago, so this idea has been around for a long time. Even to this day, many business students will encounter the idea of SMART goals. They're very common in corporate America. But this is a good example of a technique, of an approach you can use to create goals for yourself, and also create the conditions by which hopefully you're able to meet these goals. So this acronym SMART, S-M-A-R-T, stands for 5 different concepts. The first is about specificity. So something that is specific in a goal lets you answer questions like who, what, when, where, why, how. I'll give you an example here in a moment to kind of illustrate this. The M in SMART stands for measurable or measurability. What ruler or scale are you using to let you understand or know that you have been successful in whatever it is you're trying to do? The A stands for achievable or achievability. Are your current abilities enough? Can you do what it is you're trying to do in terms of this goal? The R stands for realism or realistic. Does this goal you're developing make sense given the entire situation? And then finally, the T stands for time frame, or sometimes we'll use the term timeliness or even time scale. This refers to the time period of a particular goal. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, so let me offer some examples to try and make this more real. A common sentiment you might hear from people, I know I've said this myself in years past and probably still do, a goal we might have that would not be SMART, that would not meet these 5 conditions, S-M-A-R-T. A not SMART goal might be something like, I want to get more exercise, I'll get more exercise. That's a good goal to have, but it's very vague and unformed. A smarter way of phrasing this might be, I'll exercise at least 3 times per week during this school year to keep my body healthy and my mind ready to learn. So let's look at this SMART goal and break it down. The S, it has specificity. This person, this student, let's say, this is a student's goal, wants to keep an active routine to maintain their overall health, so they're being specific about what it is they want to accomplish. The M, the measurability, comes from the statement about exercising 3 times per week. That's something you can measure. The achievability, the A in SMART, this is an achievable goal by the student as long as they can manage their time. So a lot of times we can have goals that are kind of dependent on certain things happening or being done, but that's part of setting a goal, making us aware about the stuff that affects the goals we're trying to meet. The R in SMART, realism or realistic, this is a relevant goal for anyone who wants to improve themselves. All of us pretty much can benefit from more exercise. So in that sense, this is realistic. And even the busiest person, if they really make an effort, should be able to find time to exercise. And then finally, the T in SMART, the time frame. This goal's deadline is specified, exercising a certain number of times per week. So there's a weekly time scale or time frame. And then the time frame of the school year, which is during the school year the student wants to exercise 2 times a week. So that gives us another time frame. So again, contrast, I will get more exercise, not a SMART goal, with this SMART goal. I'll exercise at least 3 times per week during the school year to keep my body healthy and my mind ready to learn. Let's get one more example. A not SMART goal, I'll get to know my professors. There are many students who want to get to know their professors, not just for fun or amusement, but because in their particular career paths, the professions they want to pursue, they may need to go to graduate school, medical school, law school, which means that they would probably need recommendation letters from professors when they apply to those different programs. So that could be a benefit of getting to know your professors. Some students may be pursuing a particular career path where having the recommendation of a professor from their business school, for example, could be very beneficial when they look for their first job. So there could be many reasons for this goal. The takeaway here is that I will get to know my professors is a good sentiment, but not a very SMART goal. So how can we make this goal more SMART? Look at this. In order to get recommendations for graduate school, I'll develop a good rapport with my professors by meeting with each professor at least once per semester to introduce myself. So let's look at this in more detail and map the SMART approach onto this goal. So the S in SMART is about specificity. The student does have a specific plan with a specific purpose, right? The M in SMART, measurability. It's measured by the number of students the professor has. So if you want to meet with each professor and you have 5 professors, 5 classes in a semester, then you'll know, have I met with half my professors, 2/3, whatever. The A in SMART, achievability. The student has an achievable goal. I mean, there's no reason why any college student should not be able to accomplish this. The R in SMART, realism. This is a realistic goal. If you have a positive relationship with your professors, if you're able to communicate even at a basic level, it's not that difficult to go walk into the door of someone's office and say, hello, good morning, good afternoon, I'm so-and-so, I'd like to introduce myself, I'm taking your such and such class that meets on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. or whatever. That task, doing that in a basic way, is not that challenging. Now I understand some students may feel shyness or may find it a challenge to communicate with the professor. The fact that you're having a challenge, the fact that you might personally need to work through some issues in terms of confidence or whatever, doesn't mean that the task itself of walking in the door of an office and greeting someone, introducing yourself, that doesn't make it not realistic. You just have to do it. And then finally, the T in SMART, time frame. This goal's deadline is by the end of a given semester, or maybe you could repeat this every semester. So again, you're getting a very concrete time frame. There's a time period that's being drawn around this goal. So again, that lets you measure, that lets you understand, am I meeting this goal or not? It's not just as vague as I want to introduce myself or get to know my professors. You're making it much more SMART. So finally, to review our discussion, today's episode was on setting priorities and goals. We talked about what is a priority, and that is determined by the relationship between importance and urgency. We talked about ways of fighting procrastination. You want to avoid distractions, be as organized as you can, make yourself accountable in various ways, as I described. And then we looked at the concept of SMART goals, and I gave a couple of examples, but as a brief reminder, SMART, the acronym SMART, stands for specific or specificity, measurable, achievability, realism or realistic, and time frame. I hope you found this information today helpful. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll click on the thumbs up icon below. And if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications by clicking on the bell icon. YouTube will notify you of future videos added to this channel. Remember, college success is challenging, it takes work and effort, but it is certainly within your grasp. Good luck.